Hi everyone, this video I'm going to show you how to make puff pastry. This is based on rough puff pastry. So there's three types of puff pastry methods. We've got English, French and rough, which is also known as Scotch. Now rough puff is the quickest, easiest one to make. So puff pastry, we've got flour, we've got butter, and also we've got a little bit of water and also a pinch of salt going in too. So this is quite quick, quite easy. This recipe is based on one by Michelle Roux Sr., who's one of the world's best pastry chefs. So I'll start making it. Right, so to make rough puff pastry, we've got equal quantities of strong white flour, so like a bread flour. We need a really strong gluten to it. And we've got 225 grams of butter. There's also 125 of cold water, make sure it is cold, and I've got some salt here to put a pinch of that in a bit. Now with the cold butter, we want to spread it out on the flour. Now what we want to do is rub it in a little bit, but we want to keep the butter formed in big pieces. We don't want the butter to break down because the butter is what's going to produce the layers, which is what we call lamination. So all I'm going to do, just squeeze them a little bit, just to start breaking a bit. Now this does get a bit messy when we start adding the water to it as well, but this method can save you up to about an hour and a half, 2 hours of prep, of rolling and resting, rolling and resting. Right, so I've got my butter just pressed in a little bit, like that. Now I'm just going to make somewhat of a well in the middle, like so. So that way when I pour the water in the middle, hopefully it won't get through and leak. Now I'm going to add a bit at a time, so that's about a third of it. And you can use your fingers, bring it in, start forming your dough, your paste. And you can see that water gets absorbed quite quickly. Right, so if you've got a pastry scraper handy, it's really helpful. You'll need extra flour as well for the bench when you're rolling it. So I want to try and bring that together as some sort of a paste. Obviously it's got the big solid blocks of butter in there. Now what we're going to use this pastry for is to produce a Bakewell pudding. So I'm just going to flatten that now. The moisture of the dough is going to start soaking up the extra flour. Now this pastry here, I'm going to roll it to start with. Now it's really important you remember how far you've rolled it and your turns. You'll see what I mean by turns soon if you don't already know. So as you can see, it's quite wet. There's a lot of butter in there, which gives a lot of lubrication to it. So we need to roll that. And then we're going to do what's called a single turn. So a single turn is when you fold it in three. So 1/3 over that side and the other third over the top. It doesn't look like much at the minute, and then you want to turn it 90 degrees. Now you can squash it down a little bit, flour on, roll it again. And you'll see as I'm doing these different rolls and turns, it starts to come together as pastry. You don't want to overwork it. If you overwork it, the butter will melt too much. Again, 1/3, the next third, like that. Get some of this extra flour around the place into it. Turn it around again, another 90 degrees. So that's 2 turns now. Again, roll it out. And you see it's forming more now. The butter's starting to take into the dough, into the paste. So try and keep it as rectangular and even as you can, as square as possible. So again into 3, 1/3, next third. And so that's your 3 turns now, 3 single turns, not doubles, but single turns. And then turn 90 degrees again, a bit more flour. And this is the last roll. So this is the 4th single turn. And as you can see, most of the butter is distributed through that. And I am just going to fold it up once more, put it in the fridge, let that rest for 20 to 30 minutes. Make sure it's well wrapped in cling film, and then it's ready to use. And that is your rough puff pastry.